Giacomo's. Sal, he's the man. Giacomo's Italian Market. We had him on the podcast. We're doing a pop-up together. I don't know if I've met anyone who as real as Sal. He hugs me every time I see him. I love Sal. And you know what else I love about him? His food. His food is fantastic. It's an Italian market right over there on College Hill. He's got sausages. He's got his own soda now. There's pasta, there's the rice balls. There is so much stuff over there that is just unique and special. And then you got the menu. The breakfast sandwich I was lucky enough to have, that's killer. The sausage sandwich is killer. The sausage itself is killer. The cheesesteak is killer. Giacomo's is such a unique thing to this area, and I'm so happy it's like 10 minutes from the studio. But Giacomo's, man, they are on... 700 Cattell Street in Easton, College Hill, and you can go to giacomositalianmarket.com. I cannot wait to do more things with him. I'm selling his sausage sandwich called the G-Spot. We're doing that on our pop-ups. So that is Giacomo's Italian Market. Please go check them out. Love them to death. They are a new sponsor, and thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Mindleaf CBD. I'm a lot calmer with this read. You know why? Because I'm using these products from Mindleaf. Liz came on the show multiple times. Awesome story on how she got into this. They are making all their products. We got the barbecue pretzels. The pretzels are fire. The tinctures, those are my big thing that I use. I go to sleep with those. The tinctures knock this groundhog out every time I go to bed. The CBD gummies are great, and the Delta 8s. The Delta 8s are fantastic. They'll put you on the moon. I enjoy that. Seriously though, this is a fantastic CBD product. I stand behind it. I got to use all of their stuff, and it is 100% the go-to thing I use now for joint pain, for going to sleep. The snacks are awesome as well. It's just an added bonus. I'll go over to the store and pick those up. Liz is one of a kind. You can follow their social media, Mindleaf CBD, and then it's mindleafcbd.com that you can order all their stuff online. So if you're not local to the area, if you are local, I suggest you go over to the shop. They have a really cool shop over on College Hill. It's actually close to Giacomo's, which is another sponsor. But that's Mindleaf CBD. Get your tinctures, get your Delta 8s, get your gummies, get all of your CBD needs from Mindleaf. We're doing pop-ups and things together as well. So follow their social media. We are connecting them into the network. So go support them because they support me. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. fiveanddimeeaston.com. They have their website officially up. You can shop most of their stuff online. They also have Fucked. They have Fucked in the store. I think they're the only one allowed to sell Fucked out of their store. It's 484-544-4719. That's at 5 and Dime Easton on social media. These guys are great. I mean, they're killing it. It's the best skate shop, in my opinion, in the area. They have a lot of cool stuff there. Both the owners are rad. I stop in when I can. They're open Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 7, and Sunday, 11 to 5. There is someone always there to help you out with your needs. You can check their inventory off the website. You can check out some videos they got on there, and they're doing some cool things. Their social media is awesome. They support a lot of local skaters in the area, and they're growing. I'm excited to be a part of them growing. I'm excited to help them out. They're helping me out. It's a good relationship, and I push 5 and Dime Easton because they're the best skate shop in the area. Check them out. All over the place. Welcome to Never Again Radio, episode Who Fucking Knows.
Woo!
Welcome.
Yeah.
We finally got here.
We did it.
I met you in the lobby upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
You were one of the most interesting people I've run into a while with your art background and everything you do. And I've always wanted to do this interview. We've always wanted to do this interview. And now here we are.
Yes.
Where did your journey start with getting into art? Did you get into hair early on? Did that transform into finding another palette to be artistic in? Where did you start kind of seeing that you had that creative itch that you wanted to turn it into a career?
Whoa, loaded question. All right. Well, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Of course.
First and foremost. Woo. So my mom put me in an art daycare when I was a kid. I was 4 years old.
I didn't even know they had stuff like that.
I know.
I'm going to yell at my mom when I talk to her today.
Like, Mom, why did you put me in that? Yeah, and so they started telling my mom, like, hey, I think your daughter has a little bit of talent. Maybe you should, try to trying to push that avenue. And then I did art lessons and stuff in school and high school. And so I was kind of a loner.
Did you have to be pushed into the art stuff, or is it like an outlet that you enjoyed where when you got to high school, you're like, well, at least, art class is going to be fun?
Yeah, I was like, man, I can't catch a ball for shit. I could run.
Softball's out.
Yeah, I could run. But yeah, art was always the avenue. And I kind of fell into barbering, fell into hair. There was a part of me that was like, okay, maybe I could go to cosmetology school. That's what all the kids were doing in high school, going to tech,
Yeah, it was a huge option. I don't know how it is now, but I know back then it was like tech, and for the girls it was the cosmetology, and that was always like, I know dozens of girls that went on to like open their own salons or like build a career off of it. It's actually something, I don't think enough people talk about, that there's an avenue there where women get to build a career, especially without wanting to go to like college and anything like that. I wish I would have looked more into the tech stuff. Yeah, I was too busy getting in trouble.
Yeah. Too busy exploring your youth.
Yes. What a nice bow to put that on. I guess I should start saying that instead of talking about all the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, tech was for all the trade jobs. And I think when we were younger, at least for me, they were pushing college, and they're like, oh, forget the tech jobs. And people were kind of considered like a loser if you went to tech. And now the same people that went to tech have their own business. Yeah. They're not in student loan debt, and they're actually doing a lot better than the people that went to college. I
just talked about that. I don't know if it was Some Foodie or Modern Crumb. It was one of the last podcasts I had on. One of the girls was on, and I said the same thing to them, where I was like, back in the day, like you were looked down upon if you didn't go to college,
which is so messed up.
It's crazy because like I remember like feeling like a failure in high school because people were going to college, and then it like separated you, especially like if you were a group of people and then like they were going off to college, even though they didn't know what they wanted to do. No one did. I didn't know anyone back in the day who was like, this is what I want to do, but they were like, college is next. And then when I didn't do that, it was like I went to work in a factory, and then that was like, okay, well, now I'm down a class of a person because I'm working in a factory. It's pretty screwed up how they used to actually build that stigma around it. And we talked for a while about like breaking that, and over the years, and I'm so happy I did it the way I did and where I'm at with like, I don't really have a lot of anchors in my life that I'm like, I feel like if I would have followed the same path as others, I don't think I'd be doing what I would be doing now.
Yeah, right on. I really feel like there was a paradigm that was pushed, like go to college, get student loans, do better than what your parents did, and you have to go to college, or that was it. And it's really
that's so much pressure.
How are you going to tell a 17 or 18-year-old what to decide what they're going to do for the rest of their life?
Or like my mom being like, you should be a doctor. I look back on that now, I'm like, that's so difficult.
Bitch.
Like, look here, bitch. I can't even get through reading where the wild things are, let alone you want me to get into a medical magazine?
Oh, no, excuse my French. Not your mom being a bitch, but she's
a saint.
I'm sorry to tell you, you have cancer.
Yeah.
I can't see you being a doctor if it doesn't fit your personality.
No, not at all.
No, but you probably could do it if you really wanted to.
No, I can't. My comprehension and all that. This is all like watching video. Like I've given up on figuring out like a better way to read. Like I have read where like I enjoy reading, but it takes a lot of discipline. It's exhausting, and then like I have to stay on top of it. Where it's way easier for me to rip podcasts and audio and video. So at this point, like with understanding how my brain works and paying attention to it and like applying it to business and stuff, I just like hit my strongs instead of my strengths, not my weaknesses. So like now it's like, even when I get into cooking and shit, it's like, cool, let's start with YouTube. And then like I can already like understand it way faster than rereading something 5 times. Yeah. Like I'm not a fan. Like I guess it would be reading and comprehension was always like my brain just starts going off, and I'll picture what I'm reading, but then that distracts me from reading. So like now it's like audio, video, Audible, all that stuff.
But that's all like stuff that stimulates your senses.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
people
how I
learn
learn
differently too. And I think that's another thing too with school, like pushing people to just do one thing and not realize that people can excel in a wide range of things like tech. And anyway,
what were you excelling in when you were doing into? No, there doesn't have to be any topics. I'll keep us on track. So like, what were you doing in your your classes for art? Like, were you excelling in anything differently, or it was like watercolor or like design, or, you know, what was kind of your strengths when you were starting to build up your artistic side?
Well, shout out to my teacher, Mrs. Caesar. She was my art teacher. She was really cool. We did a multitude of mediums. We did sculpture. We did painting. I think painting was one of my strong suits. A lot of cool color. I like acrylics and I like oil, but oil is a little bit expensive.
Yeah.
So I stuck with acrylics. I was going through a lot as a kid. My mom was a single mom, and so art was like my outlet.
Yeah.
And it was something that there was no borders. There was no, you got 100% on this or you failed. It was, did you express yourself and did you fulfill the assignment?
What a great teacher.
Yeah, she was really, really awesome. She's the best.
There's always that like one or two that even like I look back on was Mr. Hansel was
you remember the name
yeah,
too.
Was a math teacher, but he had a club because like when it was 8th or 9th grade they started doing like teams where it was like green team, yellow team, red team, and then they had groups that would meet up and they kind of put like the problem kids with Mr. Hansel. I look back on it now, I didn't realize it because I was like, oh, all my friends are here. And then I was like, oh no.
This is where I belong.
Yeah, you're over
These are
here
my
so you
people.
don't ruin everything else. And then he just treated us like normal people. And he's like, you guys want to do like a skateboarding club? You guys like want to play tackle? I think like we ended up doing like football, but he like let us play tackle. But like he said it was flag football. But like he would do stuff like that. And then like I just remember he always treated and talked to me like a regular person and didn't exclude me from other stuff, and like that paid out huge. And it's like I learned way more with him because I felt comfortable with him because he talked to me like a regular person.
Yeah, and that's what my teacher did too. And she knew that there were certain things going on in kids' lives, and so she always was very aware of that for different students. So that was cool. But that's where I put all my focus in school.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really got time for sports. I don't really feel like getting hit in the head with a volleyball. So
Yeah, I can picture that too.
I could run.
Get her off the court. Can you run off the court faster?
Finally, yes. So come on, let me do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how that started. Where we go now? Let's see.
Where were you? So like, did you finish up school then, or like, where did you go after high school? Did you go into the Votech program? Did you go somewhere with art? I mean, where did you let it take you after high school?
So I did not go into tech, but I was kind of at this place where, oh great, senior year's approaching. I got to decide what I'm going to do the rest of my life. Yeah, and so I said maybe I'll do something with art. My mom said, what? You want to go to school to paint?
Yeah. It's not like it is now where it's like, look, I can start a store in 5 minutes and sell it all.
Mom, I could be a graphic designer. Yeah. I can make NFTs, you know.
Yes, yeah.
It was none of that. There was all that, oh, you want to be a painter? And, you know, ¿qué? You want to do what? I was like, okay, what else can I do? I said, okay, everybody needs to wear clothes, right? Most, society wants us to wear clothes and stuff. So I said, okay, maybe I'll go into the fashion business. Clothes are never going to go. They're always going to be a necessity. My uncle was a fashion marketer. So I thought, okay, there's an avenue. If I've seen him be successful in the fashion industry, maybe it's not just, smoke and mirrors or whatever. So then I became a fashion designer.
That's awesome.
Thanks. I said, I'm going to put my art on clothes, guys. I'm going to make stuff that goes in the museum. Like, that's what I really wanted to do. Wearable art.
Yeah.
So then I went to school for that, and I did that.
What school did you go to for that? Because I mean, around here, and I'm just interested because this all started from kind of the same avenue. I got into apparel, and I still am like in love with fashion. I just I'd like to dress the way I dress. I mean, you have a very sense of fashion on how you what you wear and you carry yourself. Like it's very noticeable that you care about fashion, but so it's always cool when I meet other people that start on that journey. So like, where did that kind of begin? That because back in the day when I was trying to look, it's like I had to leave the area. You'd have to go to New York for fashion school, and then it was like you started running into roadblocks where it's a really good idea by your parents, but then you have to tell them like you need to ride into New York, and this is how much money it costs, and I'll sell everything and take the bus, and that usually So like, where did that begin?
I said, okay, I can't be a painter, even though I wanted to do fine art. I said, the next best thing, I'll put my art on clothes, I'll go to fashion school. I applied to FIT in New York City, and I applied to the Art Institute of Philadelphia. While I was waiting for FIT to get back to me, the Art Institute of Philadelphia accepted me. And I said, "Oh,
what was that like? Letter in the mail?"
Yeah, I was like, "Oh snap! I'm going to college,
That's
leaving
crazy.
the area, going to Philly." You know, I was like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah,
Finally get out of the sticks. You know, go get some stripes in the city. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how I was when I left, and then it was weird because I had like a calling to be like, I love like city culture, I love graffiti, I love fashion, skateboarding. Like, it's like the city vibes mixes a lot of like what I love and a lot of like how I express myself through the different studios, like. It's like a palette, and it's like there's food there. Like it's not how it is around
there's
here
inspiration
at
everywhere.
all, or it was back in the day either. Yeah. So like, and then you had other like-minded people that also believed in like, hey, I want to be an artist, I want to do this. So it's like at that point it was like a melting pot of like people who believed that they could actually become something outside the norm.
People who are dreaming bigger than just a small city mind.
Yes, it's very. I mean, it's. With the network and what I do now, it's funny because the amount of people that come in and I get to have conversations with other people who like, you know, I used to feel like I was alone because I was the only crazy person who wanted to do something outside of the norm in this
like,
town.
Does anyone else have ideas?
Yeah.
You know, is
like,
everyone else just stuck?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
It does.
Yeah.
It does feel like that.
I was born in Jersey and my family's from New York City, and then I was raised out here, but we'd go back to New York City for the holidays. So I always tell this story. When we leave every holiday, I felt like in the movies, you know, that little kid that puts their face against the glass and they're just like, and like, so like we're driving in the car and I'm just like watching the lights go by. I'm like, no, I don't want to leave. So I told myself when I got older, I was going to move to a city because that's where my family came from. And I wanted to have that same experience. You know, some of the mental fortitude that you get when you live in a city and just the access to more things and, you know, more life. So that's how I was like, okay, I'm going to be in New York or I'm going to be in Philly. And so I went to the fashion, I went to be a fashion designer at the Art Institute. And a couple months into going to the Art Institute, I realized that my acceptance letter for FIT was in my spam box. I know.
Did you want to go to New York over Philly?
I did, but I was like, oh, well, they never got back to me. I must not be good enough.
Yeah,
you know, that whole like mental, you know, rabbit hole.
What a crazy moment in your history and time. And then like, there's always like pivoting moments that I still look back on. When I was in high school, troubled kid, you know, was at one point in 11, you know, I was asked to leave public school, then went to private school.
Exploring your youth again.
Exploring my youth there too, and wasn't as bad in the private school, but then at one point I was ready to just get my GED, and we were looking at options, and I flew to New Orleans. Ooh. And my cousin at the time, rest in power, Uncle Bill, cousin
Uncle
Bill. He ran a school for ADHD kids and like troubled youth.
Wow.
So we went there, and it was in the sticks. We went back there, and I was probably 16. First time I ever flown. Went to New Orleans. Went right off the plane. Went to Bourbon Street. It was crazy. It was crazy. I was like, it was like, oh. And then
so many awesome things.
So then Saturday morning we went to the camp, and it was literally like a summer camp, how you would picture in your head. And then I went there, and then I was just like, holy shit, like these kids are like way on a different parallel. I'm like some kid who's telling a teacher to shut up, and these are like New Orleans street kids who are like really dealing with some serious issues. And I'm like, and then the deal was we got a cabin, and I had to stay there with my mom. And
okay, so she was with you.
Yeah, like because I was only 16. So we just went out to like see the school to see if this was a fit for me. And there was
I'm thinking you were already there.
No. This was just like a showing. I'm sorry, I didn't explain it correctly.
No, it's okay.
So we went out there to like visit the school to see if I wanted to comfortably live in New Orleans and uproot from Nazareth. So from Nazareth, now I'm in New Orleans. So we went out
0
there
to 60.
and we stayed in a cabin, and there was like 2 beds, and my mom's just like, and I look back on it, and she's such an amazing person, and she's like, do you think you could do this? And I'm like, yeah, I could, because I was always mentally tough. I just didn't know where to apply that. And we start hearing things, and there was cockroaches everywhere, but in New Orleans they're like flies. It's normal. And she's like, get in this bed. She's like, you are not staying here. So like it was like, that was kind of like the deciding factor. But then I got up, and it was one of those, I've had these moments where you kind of realize like your situation's not as bad as others, and you're just going through some shit. So I stuck it out and graduated. But I have these moments where I'm like, what would that have been in my life if I went to New Orleans. And it's very similar where it's like, do you ever think like, where would I have gone in life if I would have saw that spam, and would it have been a positive or a negative, or would I even be where I'm at now? Like there's these weird forks sometimes where like it literally would have like changed your life.
The whole course.
That's crazy. Spam.
Over technology. Crazy.
What was that feeling? Did it gut you when you saw that?
It was a miniature dagger.
Miniature
dagger to the heart. But
how long were you at the Philly place already?
It was a couple months.
Yeah.
It was a couple months. It was an accelerated program. So it's a whole bunch of different art disciplines: culinary, film, video, graphic design, fashion. And you're taking your core classes right from the gate. So other schools are structured with semesters, but we had quarter system. So you went to school for like 12 weeks and then you had a week off, and then 12 weeks and a week off. So I was already like in the thick of it, like, okay, this is what my life is going to be. I'm already sewing for 10 hours at a time, figuring out like everything about fashion and geometry and doing all these things I didn't really know how to do yet. Huge learning curve. And then next thing you know, I get this spam and I look at it and I'm like, damn, man. Like,
what would the New York City, was that a little bit more like, instead of getting all the medias, you would have just focused on like fashion design? Because I know I went down there. I wanted to go, before I started this, I was looking into going to FIT, and I met a girl through a friend of mine, or his wife, that had graduated from there. So like they do, like you could pick up classes and like go there. And it wouldn't have been like a whole college experience. It would have just been more like credits to get things.
Yeah.
And I like took a tour of the school and everything, and it was just one of those other moments where it was just too much going on, and I couldn't stop my life because I was working full time. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could have went, but I would have to stop working. My parents were like, yeah, okay. Like you're already back living here. Like we're not paying for you to live as an adult. But like it seemed like you could actually like just kind of really dial in on what you want exactly to do. Was there a difference between the two schools on why you wanted to go to New York more, or was it the culture that was there?
Well, for starters, I mean, let's just be honest. FIT has a really prestigious name.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, is like, was it a little bit more?
They had a really good name, and I already had family in New York City, so I was already comfortable with the city, and I felt like it would be my entry to kind of share some of the history of my family being already there in my own way. But with the Art Institute, it was closer to home a little bit, and I just simply got accepted there first, or at least I thought. But now that I look back on it, then you mentioned, I was exposed to so many more things being in Philadelphia. I got to see the behind the scenes of film production. I got to see, so
important
culinary
right now.
Stuff. Hell yeah. Yeah.
Everything
totally.
is everything right now. It's not one thing.
And so I was able to see a little bit of what went into everything, and I feel really good to know that I had that experience, and I made some really good friends. And well, that sounds corny, but I don't think I would change it.
Yeah. It's weird. Like I said, it's just pivoting moments where it's like, what would have went left? What would have went right? I mean, when I got forced to go to Notre Dame, it's like, I have 3 people that I still talk to on a regular basis that I would have never met if I wouldn't have been uprooted from where I'm at. So it's like, there's always learning in every situation. There's always growth. There's always that. It's always just like, was it going to be greener on the other side? Would it have been harder in New York? Would it have worked out the way you said it would? But Philly's dope. I'm sure.
I love Philly.
I'm sure it was fun.
Woo! I love Philly. Another thing that what we thought about too, going to FIT, I think I might not have worked as hard, because I would have subconsciously said, oh, well, people know who FIT is, so I'll get the job. Yeah. Not to say that I'm that type of person, but going to a school where they have a good name, you kind of already have certain expectations that the name will carry you.
And back in the day, that's how getting hired was, when you used to actually have to sit down at an interview, and you're like, oh, well, because I mean, one of the first questions is like,
where'd you go to school?
Where'd you go to school?
You start name dropping, and it's like, those name drops are great, but how do you handle stress? You know, how can you make something happen in X amount of time? And one thing is that I mentioned the quarter system versus the semesters. We were at the Art Institute a lot of my Art Institute classmates will definitely feel me on this one. We had to crunch out collections in 12 weeks as opposed to 3 months that these other students had. And so we were forced to work hard and really show that we can run with the big ones too, you know,
Yeah.
that we like belonged. And so
That's an awesome skill set to pick up.
yeah, it was intense. And we had a lot of critiques. Every week we were critiqued in front of everyone. And so I think that helped me build up some
Did you
mental muscles.
did you have to like stand up and like talk to people in front of did you have to do like class presentations and
Oh
stuff?
yeah. And then teachers would
Do you like doing stuff like that?
Now I do.
Yeah.
But before, oh no. Teachers would rip you a new one.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Throw that in the trash. And we were all sitting like, oh snap, I don't want to go next.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the benefit, I'd say, you know, in my path might not have been, I might not have worked so hard. If
Were
I
you
went to
living in
FIT.
Philly or traveling back and forth? Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, I was living in
Yeah.
Philly. Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Hell yeah. I'm sure that was fun to get out of this area and then kind of relive. Like when I went to Virginia, it was like you kind of get to live a movie you were playing in your head from like when I get out of this town.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, it was cool because like when I lived in Virginia, I lived there 2 times, and the one time I stayed for a year. And I rode a bike everywhere because like I was like a city kid. I was like, yo, but it was cool because like I went down there. I didn't know how long I was going to be there. You know, and then I was pulled back here because my brothers were having kids, and I left too late. So like these friendships that I developed, like I had awesome friends in Virginia, but I didn't have my like base. It was back home. So, I remember like my brother had a bike and he never used it, and I took it, and I was able to ride from once I moved, because I moved out of my brother's and I got an apartment in the art district. So I was like, it was so cool. It was such a small apartment, but it had a spiral staircase up to like a loft.
Like, I got a loft.
There was a fireplace that didn't work, but I was like, oh,
I got a fireplace.
But it was like and then like
it makes you feel like you made it.
Yeah, because it's like it's like you take the hook in the wall and you hang your bike on the wall, and I'm like, yo, I'm a city kid.
So cool.
But then I rode my bike everywhere, and it was awesome. It was the best shape I was ever in. Best shape. I was doing 12, 13 miles a day.
I got 3 bikes stolen in Philadelphia.
I never got mine stolen.
3
I
of
brought
them,
them
man.
inside, carried them. I definitely did not leave them. We were just in Philly, and
man.
I took a picture. I'll show you after the show. It was some dude's bike, and everything was stolen off of it except for the frame was still
That's how they
locked
do
to
But I totally feel you on there. I had a single speed.
Yeah.
I was a total hipster.
Single
I had my
speed. You were super.
crossbody.
Were you vegan?
Only once.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, I dated a vegan girl when I was down there. I was in the bike scene for a little
Hell
bit. It was fun.
They even had bike lanes. There was more bikes on the road
It's
than cars.
dangerous to ride bikes around here as opposed to it was in the full city.
No, forget about it.
But it was cool. I rode. I would ride to. I worked at a screen printing plant, so that's where I went down there to start learning screen printing. And I wanted to Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So I left here. I started a clothing company, left here because my brother lived down there. So it was an easy avenue to get into a city. I went to visit him all the time. So I loved the city. And then I was like, all right, I got to get into apparel. So, like the screen printing, getting a job at a screen printer was my college. So I was like, cool, I'm going to learn the ins and outs.
But that's the real world stuff.
Yeah. So then I got to touch t-shirts, and then now, I can tell you what's a good quality, what's bad quality, because they're coming through, the pricing. I was doing the books for them. And then I would leave there and I worked at a restaurant in the after. So I worked there, and then from 4 to like 8 or 9, I worked at a whiskey pub. So I would ride my bike there, and then I would ride my bike home, and I just rode my bike. It was
awesome.
it was freeing. It was really cool. Like it was literally like a movie playing in my head. And then when I got to do it, it's one of the greatest times I look back on. And I was alone too. So like I knew some people, but like when you accept the fact that it's okay to like go out to eat alone, and you actually like, I really enjoy now like going into the city sometimes by myself because it triggers like just taking it all. I went to art museums. I was like, dude, I don't care who you don't know down here. You don't have a girlfriend. You do have a girlfriend. Like you're going to just let the city swallow you. And it's what I did. I just went to museums and just took the culture in and met all these people and rode my bike everywhere. It was a dope time. And I was definitely like shredded from just riding my bike.
Brolic.
No longer like that.
Super. Yeah, I was in the best shape of my life too, biking everywhere.
Get into the bagel business. It'll change you.
Oh man, that's
How
awesome.
long were you in Philly for?
2009 to 2014.
Yeah. Did you get into music? You got to clubs? What was your scene like?
Philly, honestly, I dove headfirst into school. So it was biking, working out on the Philadelphia Museum art steps, like Rocky.
Yeah.
Like, that was my thing. And then just doing fashion stuff. I would go to New York to get fabric and then come right back.
Ah, it's so fun.
Oh man, yeah.
What kind of clothes were you making?
So a lot of my pieces or garments, as you could say, were geometry forward. So I would put like really cool how do you say paper folding, geometry. I'm having a brain fart.
You're right.
Like, you know when people make those paper cranes?
Yeah.
Origami.
Yeah.
Origami. There we go. I would literally make origami with my clothes. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And
do you have pictures and stuff of it still?
I do. I want to show you.
What did you, so when you started getting into like the fabrics and making your own stuff, what was that like? Because you were able to use what? Like the institute you were working at, and these were projects, so it's like you have the tools to like make clothing and stuff. That must have felt crazy.
Yeah, and we had industrial machines, and that we would go to the lab.
Yeah.
And so I'd be in the lab for like 10 hours. Just chugging Monster Javas.
Those are so good.
Forget about it. Just like,
yeah.
And I didn't know how to sew or anything before I went to fashion school. So it was a huge, like, starting from the bottom.
Yeah.
And our time was so limited that I had to spend like 10 or 12 hours. I would go to class 8 to 12, be in the lab 1 to 5, and then work from like 5 to midnight and then do it all over again.
Yeah. I like that, like how you're saying you were in there for like 10 hours and stuff. Like, I love that kind of dump out. Like, where like it feels like you're done exercising, because like my stuff's so scattered, and it's like, you know, and I feel like a lot of creative people, they get distracted easily, or their patterns of how they think and whatnot is different than others. And once you're comfortable enough to like express yourself and not be scared to, I think it's way easier now, but back in the day it was definitely a lot harder to be like, well, I think this looks cool. Or like, I even remember back in high school, like guys couldn't wear pink. Yeah, and like that was such a big thing when that folded over. Yeah. But it's stupid. Like, so picture being a kid or somebody where you want to get into fashion or something, and then like, it was always hard to like kind of express yourself. But when you're able to like have a class like that, take up the culture of the city and ride your bike and then do all this stuff, and then you're like, okay, cool, my day today is that I get to go do this and it's work. But that dump out must have been so refreshing to like come out of that lab exhausted, but you're like being able to make stuff. You're not like, hey, I hope I don't get picked for kickball today.
Yeah, exactly. I hope nobody picks me to be on their team. I'm
gonna hide behind the bush again.
I was never there. I saw you. No, you did not. I was not.
Yeah,
there. Kind of like The Simpsons, where he just goes into the bush.
Yeah. I was always a kid who would like wipe tuna oil on myself, and they're like, "Oh, Michael stinks. Don't pick him." I still do it to this day.
Horrible. Yeah, I mean, I didn't always have a lot of days off because I was working a lot and in school full time. Yeah. But when I did, I'm like, all right, I'm going to be in the lab.
But it's
all
work
day
you love
today.
Working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like, man, I got to go to science
I was
class.
a waitress too. I was a waitress.
Where'd you waitress at?
I was a waitress and I was a hostess.
Did you like that?
It was cool. I worked at this one spot called
You're super
Yakitori
personable.
Boy. It was thanks man. This place called Yakitori Boy was a karaoke and restaurant bar spot.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was so dope.
Those are like the little things. Like even when you said that, it triggered. Like there was a place called Sticky Rice in Virginia.
Yeah.
And it was like where all the college kids went. It was awesome food, and they did karaoke at night, and there was like dollar PBRs, and like that's where just like the broke college kids go to get food. It was awesome. Just eat rice, and there was just like shit you could do there.
Yeah, it was just awesome. I remember when Made in America first started in Philadelphia. The first year, I believe it was free, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And then I was like, oh shit, I got finals. And I was like, I'm just going to stay and do my work. Because at this point, I had gotten some grants to go to school. And I was like, damn, like I can't let my mom down.
Yeah. There's like a responsibility.
There was all this like pressure on my head. But now I look back and I'm like, dang, like I wish I could have went. Yeah. One of my classmates, I remember, she was on stage with, she went on stage with this one artist. And she looked like she had the time of her life. And I was like, damn, I wish I like gave myself a break.
It's tough looking back on stuff like that.
I grinded so hard. Remember The Weeknd?
Yeah.
Well, you know The Weeknd.
Yeah.
His tickets now are probably like $300.
Yep.
When he first came out with House of Balloons, one of his mixtapes, he was at...
Remember mixtapes?
Yeah, I know, right?
Lloyd Banks, baby.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was at he was at a small venue in Philadelphia and the tickets were like $20.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love The Weeknd. I'm like, but I don't have time. I gotta be responsible. Man, I wish I would have went to see The Weeknd.
It's tough looking
now I'm going
back
through
on
my
that.
regrets.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, then you could also be telling that story about how you were violently hungover and missed your finals. And, you know, I've got plenty of those stories, believe me. They just went to, I kind of remember The Weeknd.
There you go. Nice to bring it full circle.
Did you get to go to like fashion shows, or like did you guys have to put on fashion shows? Did you get to go to like, because I know they do some of the stuff in the city now, in New York and Philly where they have, and then it's big out in LA where like my big thing that
Fashion Week?
Fashion Week, or the other big thing is Magic, and like I'm still fighting. I don't care if I go out there and spend a bunch of money and nothing comes out of it at all. One of my goals when I started apparel was to do Magic, and I really got into like the guys like what's it called, Mark Echo, and even the guy that does the Johnny Cupcakes or whatever. Like there was these people that I would see that like they got to like really stand out in these like fashion shows or Fashion Week. Did you get to be a part of anything like that?
Kind of. I did some internships where I had to go to trade shows. Or
was that during your schooling
shows.
Or after?
Both.
Cool.
Yeah. So once I went to this men's trade show called Capsule.
Yeah.
And so that was cool, and I went around and talked about the place I was interning at, and like took a lot of notes, and I did a lot of like market research too for them. That was awesome. And for Fashion Week, I did go to like smaller shows.
That's fun. Did you like doing that stuff?
It was really cool. It was awesome.
Did you do anything locally around here?
Nah.
You didn't do any fashion stuff? Well, I want to get to this part where you pivot now.
Oh yeah, the pivoting.
Yeah, where you're cutting hair, what you're doing right now. You spent your time in Philly and you got to do like the fashion stuff and whatnot. And then where did that end? Did you graduate? Where did your skill set go?
Well, Philadelphia took me to New York City, or should I say fashion in Philly took me to New York City. So I finished my last semester, or my last quarter rather, online. And then I was interning in New York City and sleeping on an air mattress at my aunt's house or apartment in Queens. And every day I was just doing the internship and then working at night and just really trying to make it in the fashion world. And then eventually I landed a job with a company that did like women's wear for middle-aged women to places like Ross, and it was cool, but it wasn't everything I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I had some internships where, and it's not bragging if it's facts, right? So I had some internships where I had more skill sets than the people working there, and they were like, "Oh, you know how to use InDesign?" And I'm thinking, you don't? I thought that's what we all learned in school, at least I thought. And so I started seeing some of my internships that I wanted to work there. And so after a couple months, really like 6 months, I was like, hey, I really love this spot. I want to make it permanent. So could be my only job, so I don't have to leave to work my second job. And they told me there was no room for me in the budget. And then the next week they hired somebody.
Those are fun
and I was like,
at work.
Awesome, great, I'm out. So when I landed this job making clothes for middle-aged women, I will be one of those one day too. I just felt like my soul was depleting slowly every day. Everyone there was miserable. It was like Devil Wears Prada. And I thought, this isn't the real world. Yeah, like everyone needs to wear clothes, but there's more to life than worrying about something very superficial as fashion can be. And so I'm like, you know what, forget it. And I said, I'm going to work for a major tech retailer, one that you might know the name if I say. So I ended up working for them for 3 years, met a lot of cool people. And then...
was that back this way?
That was in New York City.
Damn, stayed in the city. Look at you.
Yeah, so then I was in New York City.
You can't leave a job and
that's how they say
hang out in New York.
No, forget it. Oh, no. At one point, I worked 3 jobs just to stay in New York City. But you know how they say if you could make it in New York City, you can make it anywhere. So.
Absolutely.
So I was determined. If anyone gets anything out of this podcast, I want them to get that you never give up and care what people say, even if you have 3 jobs.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, I push it on here all the time that, learning everything I learned was off of mistakes and failure. And every road and opportunity that I opened only came with, there's more things that came out of it. Now, I started a clothing company and it turned into a podcast. Then it turned into food pop-ups. Then it turned into apparel podcasting and food pop-ups. And now I'm going to get ready to open up a restaurant and a TV studio combined. And it's like none of that. If I would have been focused on the one thing that I was like, I really want to do that, because it's hard in life, because it's like I remember being excited about food, but then you get a job in a restaurant and you're only there to make food fast and the food that they tell you, and then it starts crushing your soul, and then you start realizing that when you're a creative person, you need to create all the time, and then you need to find something that the palate's constantly changing or something's totally different, and then that's like I just gave up, and I'm like, no, this is how I am. I think differently, and like I don't want to be stuck in an office. I don't want to do that, and like it's very important to tell people not to give up. And as stupid as it sounds and as cliche as it sounds, it's the truth.
It really
it's like
is.
there's been so many times from when I was 28 to 42 that I was like, this is where people give up. This is where people give up. Like how when you left that job, 90% of people would have just came home and would have been like, oh, like it takes a specific type of person to be like, no, I'm staying in the city. It's way more expensive. It's not what it is around here at all.
I knew there was opportunity.
Yeah.
I really knew there was opportunity. And one of the internships that I really, really wanted out of fashion school was to work for Iris Van Herpen. Now, she is awesome. Her clothes are kind of like couture and museum pieces. She got really, her line got notarized when she made a 3D printed piece, and all of her garments like move, and when the models walk it looks like the garment is dancing.
That's crazy.
And it's so dope. Like I'm talking like 250 hours or more into one piece, and I really wanted to work for her, and that was like the ultimate dream. And I remember emailing and applying for the internship, and it was in the Netherlands, and they said, no, you're American, you can't come. And I was like, no.
Yeah, at least it didn't go to spam.
Oh, I know, right?
Another spam story.
Imagine,
I'm like, no.
imagine. Oh man. And I said, damn, that sucks. And I said, but what if I learn the language? What if I move there permanently? Like I was really relentless.
Yeah.
And then the last email they sent was in capital letters, like, we will not accept you. And I was like, okay, Ashley, no is no.
Yeah.
But I mean, it ended up getting me to where I am now. So I was in the fashion industry.
Yeah, what the hell would you went to the Netherlands? What your life would have been totally
crazy.
Yeah,
I would feel like, guys, like,
yeah,
probably have a different accent and everything.
yeah, absolutely. You'd just be speaking another language. You wouldn't know anyone around here.
I didn't care. I was like, I'm gonna learn it. I don't care. I'll learn Finnish.
I remember, like, it's tough because, like, I remember working at a plastics plant, and I really got along with the one like manager guy there, and he was always nice to me, and he understood everything that was going on. And I don't have kids, I don't have a wife, so I was working third shift, and there was opportunities for like an on the road sales guy, and he was like, hey, he's like, this is coming up. I used to do it, and he's like, they have, because it got bought out, so they had a place in Switzerland, and then they had another place somewhere else. And I was like, dude, I would totally go do that. And they're like, you would want to do that? And I'm like, and I remember like wanting to take a meeting, and like I was trying to tell everybody like, hey, like I'm your guy. I really want to learn this. You guys should teach me on this. I'm willing to make this my career in my life, and I will travel and be a part of this. And they were just like, we're going to hire this guy
outside.
Yeah. Or I don't even, it was just something where I was like, why didn't I get a shot at that when I was like telling you, I'll give you everything that you're asking out of an employee. And then they were just like, no. And then I was like, bye.
Yeah.
Like that. And then the more you do that in situations, the more you start learning like self-worth at a job, and then you don't hang out places long enough, and then you start being like, cool, like this isn't working out, goodbye. There's nothing personal, but I'm not spending 2 years here wanting to shoot myself because you're not going to allow me to grow here. So if I can't make money, there's no growth, and I'm not a 16-year-old kid coming in here. Like I have bills. Like
of course.
Why do you want? Like I don't like when people ask for that specific person, and then you fill the mold, and then they're like, no. And
they hire from the outside. Where it's like, do you see my dedication and my passion? Is that not enough?
And it never works out. And then that guy's like, oh, I got kids and a family, so I can't really travel as much as you want me to. And they're like, perfect. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's like, that's exactly what you did not tell me.
Yeah, not at all.
But then you go through life, and then the people that do want someone like that will find you. Or you attract them.
Yep.
And then you will finally be notarized for those qualities.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the show works at this point.
Yeah.
It's just like these different people just keep getting attracted to here, and then I just set something up, or I'll reach out to something, or see somebody, or somebody will reach out to me, and it's just this collective of like very like-minded people, and it's made me feel, the show premise is it shows who you are. So we're showcasing who you are, but every time I bring somebody on, it's letting me realize that like who I am as a person is okay. And it's like, there's been so many people that shit on me, and like, it's why I ended up here, because of like people, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, it needs to be done my way. And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to like work together. And it's like, it's crazy what people want out of somebody as a job, but it's not really what they're looking for at all. Like they're like, oh, team building. All right, well, cool. This is team building, and this is how we get it done. And they're like, no, not that way. Well, that's not team building. The team figures it out. You don't tell us how to do it. That's you telling us how to do
title.
shit.
They want the title. They want the title, and they
So
want the accolades, but they don't want the
Yeah.
actual work. It's unfortunate. Life is really funny that way. But
it makes you a better person. It makes you
does.
like.
And then people eventually will start going to you to
Yes.
ask questions.
Yeah.
And eventually you will be the person that is looked at as, wow, they made it.
Yeah, it's weird.
You
People
know?
contact me and they're like, all the time, they're like, how do I make money with podcasting? And I'm like, easy. Ruin every relationship you're in by putting it before everything. Move back in with your parents. Spend the money you did on an apartment, on a basement, or on a studio. Move it 5 times and sacrifice everything, go into debt, and not care about anything except for what happens with the show. And then in 7 years, you'll have something.
And then they're like,
They're like, whoa.
well, that's the blood, sweat, and tears it takes
Yeah.
to make something happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really didn't answer your question, but to answer your question, so I was in the fashion industry, then I left to work in tech sales, worked for a really good company, and met a lot of awesome people in the music industry, and just doing different things with their life.
What were you doing in music?
I just met people that were in music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I just was exposed
That's
to
fun.
studios and stuff, and
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't belong here, but I belong here.
I rode a bike.
Yeah, right.
My bike's outside.
Yeah, right.
Hope it doesn't get stolen.
Catch you guys later.
Yeah.
It was really cool. But when I was working this tech job, or just working in New York City alone, everyone has their job and then their dream.
Yeah.
You know, all the waitresses, like they're making movies, they're actors, they want to open up their own business, but they're also understanding the hustle that they have to fulfill that dream. So for me, it was, okay, well, I want to do something in art, or, I want to do something. So I started doing some art shows and getting
That's fun. I
in the
never knew
art
you did art
scene.
shows.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was a short-lived, but it was really awesome. Did something in Philadelphia, did something in Brooklyn, couple paintings, couple commissions. I feel really blessed and honored to do that. But then I got approached with, someone had told me once, like, hey, you have a voice like you could be a flight attendant. And I said, what?
I'm gonna start saying that to people.
Yeah, right? I'm like, that's so specific. Like,
Yeah.
you sound like you can be the narrator on I don't know. It was very specific. And there was a part of my life where I was trying to find who I was. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to quit my job and I'm going to backpack around the world. And I'm like, okay, I need money. So then I said, I'm going to go teach English in Ecuador. So I had left my job, left New York City, moved back home to spend time with my family for 3 months. And I'm like, that's it. I'm going to go and travel the world, and I'm going to start Ecuador. That was, I don't know why, but that's what I was going to do. And I had came back home, and that's when someone told me, you should be a flight attendant. And I said, I don't know. Then I said, okay, I want to travel. I want to make money. Okay, I'll do it. So then I was a flight attendant, and that was awesome.
That's so nuts. That's so
Then
nuts.
I'm like, oh, snap. Like, I can show my art to galleries around the world.
Yeah.
That was the idea. Oh, man, sorry.
No, you're good.
I was like, oh, that was the idea. But didn't quite end up that way. Flight attendant, you're very tired. There's not always time. And then COVID happened, and all the planes were grounded. I was like, oh, snap. At this point, I was a single mom. I had my son. He was a couple months old. And I was like, now what? I was like, man, again, like, I have to figure out a new career. I wasn't going to wait until the airlines and COVID was over Some more of that.
That'd be an absolute nightmare having that job right now.
Oh, forget
There's
about
just
it.
fist fights on planes and people screaming at each other.
Yeah, and I tell people this too. I would have to, if that was me now, I'd have to decide, okay, am I going to be work Ashley or outside of work Ashley?
Yeah. But that's
There's only
crazy.
so much that people can take.
It's so nuts,
It's
the
only
videos
so
that
much
come
you can
out, that
take.
there's actually like a category where you can look up on YouTube with like flight flip outs, and it's just people yelling at people about masks and everything.
It
And then
is
there's like
so
a gray
insane.
area where like the people who work there don't really know what to do because it's two sides screaming about one or the other, and there's no real regulation on anything, and then things are implied but they're not implied, and that would have been absolutely insane to do that job.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna pay the same.
Oh, forget about it. Yeah. Insane. I had started working right after like a huge media incident had happened with the airlines. And so I had a taste of what it was like flying with COVID, but nothing to what it actually was now. So my brother was a barber for a couple years, and that's how I got plugged into a gentleman's barbershop. And so I was friends with them, and they're, shout out to Gentleman's Barbershop. That's where I'm at now. That's my home base. And so they were always saying, "No, you have personality." I was like, "I have personality."
You do.
You have personality. You could be a barber. I'm like, okay, I'll
It's
see,
very
I'll
easy
see.
how easy it was to talk to you when I ran into you, and then we just started like immediately. So like, because when I run into somebody, and then when they start having art background and stuff, like I could talk to somebody for hours.
No, me too.
But you like make it very easy, and you're very approachable. You should be doing something where like you're interacting with people on a daily basis.
Thank you very much. I feel like everyone has a story to tell, and I feel like you can learn from anyone. So I think that's why I try to make myself approachable, because so many people were not approachable in my life growing up. So I try to fill in the gap there. But anyway, thank you. I got plugged in with Gentleman's Barbershop, and they were like, go to barber school. I went to Success Barber Academy in East
How was that? Was
Stroudsburg.
it scary? Do a lot of ladies go there, or I don't know how it works.
One.
Oh, that's cool.
I was the first one, and my teacher. So, my brother told me, "Oh, there's a barbershop that opened in East Stroudsburg. You should check it out." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll check it out." And I said, "But there's also one in Allentown." So like, "Oh, I'll figure it out." So then I called the one in East Stroudsburg, and they didn't answer. But on the voicemail, they said, "God bless you," and I'm a woman of faith. And so that kind of struck a little heartstring a little bit. And I said, "Oh, that's so sweet." My little Southern grandma heart of mine was like, "Oh." So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go there. So I took my down payment in cash in an envelope, and I marched my little butt down there. And I said, "Hey, I want to go to your barber school." And my teacher looked at me, and he was like, "What? Really?" And I said, "Yeah, here's the money right here." And I think he was surprised that I was very... that I was ready to do it, and so I had a good experience there.
It makes sense because I mean, your story.
You just got to do it. Like you just got to do it.
But it's like your story, and it happens with everybody that's on here. Is you kind of just brush over because, we're just telling a part of somebody's story. You're not getting into the real life. You're not getting into ups and downs, people dying, and like so all of the things that you've said through Philly and New York and all this, and then flight attendant and everything. Like that's not easy stuff to do, and then it's all a ton of hard work doing all that. So then when you're choosing to do something, just because you're not doing the things that you did before doesn't mean you're not taking the skill set and not applying it to what you want to do now. Mm-hmm. And that's another huge thing where there's a lot of people who they leave something and they think they failed at it, but you can take something from everything you've done. I'm still taking. So like right now with where I'm at is like we're opening. So everything that I'm doing up there, I've already had a job for. So I went up there and my landlord's like, "Hey, we got to clean this stuff out." But I used to work as a cleaner. So like I went up and did that job. Then like the more I kept thinking about it, I'm like, your entire life is preparing you for this next moment. And everything that you've done up until now is a skill set and a building block and is a resource that if you pay attention and not look at it as failure, you can use. So all of your networking you learn, all of your people skills, all of the production, the hard work, the 10 hours, that's now can be applied into a different medium for you to be artistic on. So like for you to come up there and be like, "Pow!"
Yeah, he
What's
was like,
up?
"Who is this girl and what does she want?"
That's so awesome.
Thank you. A lot of people judged me for changing jobs a lot.
Oh,
Forget it. A lot of people,
it's all I used to get.
judged me for changing, moving a lot.
Yep.
I've lived a lot of places, and I could see how they could understand that, but that's what a small mindset. For me, it was like, this didn't work out, on to the next thing.
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't wait. I didn't. There was no time. Out of survival, there was no time to wait.
And that's also coming from somebody
you have to
who's
make it happen.
You're looking for something that you want to do. You're not just you're not settling.
That, and there was no handouts. My mom helped me out. So there's some rough times, and
Same.
And there was some family that judged me, and there's other family that supported me. So I can't say I did it all on my own accord, but I definitely knew that there was no time to waste.
Yeah. My favorite part now is looking back on everything I did, and I did make the correct decision on everything. And then, like, the last real job I had probably 2 or 3 years ago was the post office, and everyone was so proud of me because I got into the post office. Anyone can get into the post office. You have to pass a drug test and get through computer skills that any normal person could, and then pass a driving test. If you don't get into the post office, you should not be at the post office. If you get into the post office, good luck, because it's not what they tell you it is, and it can turn into a terrible thing. Mine turned into a terrible thing, and everyone was so big. You caught up to us. You can buy a house now. You have insurance. I'm like, yeah, I was like planning on getting all that stuff. My timeline's just different than yours.
Yeah.
And also, I'm in a position now where I know a lot of people who hate the house they live in, and they're stuck. So like,
or they're miserable that they never took chances.
Yeah. So then, like, when I left the post office, and it was the same thing that happened when I started drinking again after 10 years of sobriety, is like, people made me feel awful. And like basically told me that like it was the worst decision I ever made. They're like, here you are again, leaving a job. You know how many jobs? I'm like, first of all, it's like, you don't think I have a count of how many jobs I've had? You don't think that I'm upset that this didn't work out again? This isn't fun. It's not fun to run around and keep trying to find different careers, and it's not fun to find out again that that's like opening up spam and seeing the thing. It's like, oh man, I still am not figuring it out. And there was some hopeless times over the years I've been doing this, where I really wanted to give up on everything.
Damn, sorry.
Completely.
You went through that.
But I'm just saying is like, people don't realize that like when a person like me or you is trying to figure out what they want to do, and then you come down on them, that's not what they need in that situation. They don't need you to tell them, hey man, here you are finding another job. Yeah, I know that. But I'm totally aware of that.
What we end up finding out is that we were speaking to the wrong people.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what I learned too.
I learned that.
I was speaking to a small-minded person.
That's a fun lesson to learn.
I was speaking to someone that gave up on their own dreams, so they can't imagine somebody else younger than them or whatever, a different gender than them, doing something that they can't see themselves doing. And that sucks, especially when it's your family or people close to you.
They're the people
that's like, well, just because you gave up on your dream doesn't mean that I'm going to give up on mine.
And now I don't have time for people. And then they're like, oh, we don't have time. You told me to do this.
Yeah. Or they say you changed.
Yeah.
Well,
of course I did.
I had to change.
Do you remember when you told me I should be changing? Do you remember that? Now I've changed. And now because I don't have 10 minutes to, listen to you complain about your boring life because you're miserable.
Yeah. But you chose that misery instead of getting up and doing the hard work.
Yep.
And so I think, when I went to barber school, at that point...
Was that intimidating for you to walk in there and do that? Well, not intimidating, but like...
I get, a little bit. But I knew, I'm like, it's not just me anymore. Now it's my son, too. Excuse me. Now it's my son that, like, all my decisions ride on, that's him, too. That's got
to be... I mean, I don't have any kids, but that's got to be a burden. Not a burden, but like...
It's something in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Like, it's not... You're now in the back of your mind. The kid's first, so then now you got, like, to weigh that out. It's got to be tough.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, everything else in my life either worked out or didn't work out. So this is my option and this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And
plus it's a creative path to go down too.
Yeah. And so even though it wasn't where I thought I'd end up, I knew, you know what? I do love people. People sitting in a barber chair are a lot more pleasant than passengers on a plane.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, passengers on the plane. But let's be honest. And, I knew that it was more than just barbering.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, wow. Like sometimes I don't know, there's this phrase they have in psychology. I don't know if it's imposter syndrome. I'm not even sure if I'm using the right definition, but sometimes I'm like, oh crap, I did that.
Yeah.
You know,
My friend
or like
texted
if you
me
ever
about
like
that
cook
the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've recently started chefing it up real big. Like
Hell
I'm talking
yeah.
short ribs and lamb chops, and
Get it?
my fiance would be
Get
like,
it?
yeah. But 10 years ago, I'd be like, what? So sometimes I make something, or I see that I've accomplished something. excuse me. Accomplished something, and I'm like, whoa, I did that. And it's sometimes crazy to believe, and you just sit and think about all the tears, all the depression, all the highs, all the lows, all the people that supported you, all the people that said, man, like, here you are again, failing. Oh, yeah, we knew that wasn't going to last.
Yep.
You know, it's like, wow. It's kind of cool.
It's weird. A friend of mine asked me, he's like, do you have imposter syndrome? I go, I don't know what that means. And
Okay, good. What did he say? What did he say?
He was like, well, you feel like the things that you're doing, you're not worthy of what you're accomplishing. Because he's going through some stuff as far as like opening a business, and he got a new vehicle, and he's just like, man, I worked so hard for this stuff, but I can't accept that it's okay for me to have it. And I said, I think sometimes when you sacrifice a lot and you go through a lot of shit, you just feel like you're undeserving of things. And I was
It's
like,
not so sad.
yeah, it is. Because I took like,
I could relate. Yeah.
the amount of therapy that I've gone to over the years, and then she'd be like, are you ever going to give yourself credit? And I'm just like, nah. Like, but that was always the thing, is I put a carrot out in front of me, and I never gave myself credit. So she's like, every time you get to a finish line, you push it out further. You're never crossing the finish line. And this is like the first time that I think like, I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like this is a good enough finish line to be opening a TV studio and a restaurant. We don't need to go like any higher. Like, I mean, I just started I started an apparel company, then it went into a podcast, and it's like the podcast has done some dope things, and I'll never stop doing it. This is my outlet, and no matter what happens up there, this will always be its separate thing. But like, it's hard for me to wrap around my head sometimes, and when I do, I get emotional, or like I'll talk to my mom, and then we'll start going back through all the stories, and like, it's weird sometimes to open that door. But then like, you know, even in therapy, she'd be like, you know, like I'd like tell her, like, yo, I got a new studio, and I'd smile for like 3 seconds. I'm like, there it is, it's out, it's gone. It's like, I don't want it anymore brought in. I don't know if I think it's going to change me. I don't know if it's going to, I know it won't, but like, it's only would make things better, because it makes you a better person when you kind of like let all that in. But yeah, it's weird that you brought that up, because I've just recently been talking to somebody about that. But I feel like a lot of people who don't make their lives about, or what they're doing about them, it's hard for them to do that. I know a lot of people that make what they're doing way too much about them, and they're the polar opposite, and they're not like, it's like way too over the top. So like, I kind of prefer people who are similar to what you're talking about. But it's weird looking at it sometimes, and you're like, man, that was crazy. Philly, New York, then this, then flight attendants. Now I'm doing this, and I'm like excelling at it, like really fucking on a high level. And then like, now I'm at this new shop, and I'm doing all these things, and like, I'm living this life. And it's sometimes odd to sit back and be like, nope, I'm awesome and bust my ass, and I'm super creative, and I'm good at everything I do because I apply myself really hard, because I learned how to do that through failure. And I don't know.
Yeah, I think society doesn't allow people to actually be proud of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, society makes money off of misery.
Yes.
And that's it's a shame.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good to know there's other people in the world that can share the same experience.
That's what the show's for, man.
Whoop, whoop. Yeah,
so now you march in there, you throw your money in the air, you demand your barber schooling. How did that go? Was it difficult coming in there? I mean, is it like where you're in a shop and it's a class? Is it one-on-one? How's it work?
So it was a little bit intimidating, and I was like, geez, I don't know what I'm doing. But then again, all of us didn't know what we were doing, except maybe one person had some prior experience, one or two. But yeah, I was the only female, and so I was like, okay, that was an interesting dynamic. It was a barbershop setting, but classroom only on that, because it was 2 spaces, but really just the barbershop space. So if you walked in, you wouldn't know it was a class until we said, like, this is a school. And there were some days where I was lucky if I had one haircut. And so we really had to hustle to get haircuts.
I didn't even think of that. So you had to bring in your own clients for...
Yeah. And then...
it's like tattooing, apprenticing tattooing, talking to your friends and to get like the tattoo on their thigh.
Yeah, like, I'm never going to show anyone that one. That was your first one, you know.
Yeah.
Put it somewhere where I'll never see it. Yeah, and... my teacher had flyers, and he's like, well, you got to go out and, you know, get your clients. And I'm like, okay. So I grabbed the flyers and he's like, where are you going? I'm like, to get my clients. So I'm like walking up and down Main Street, and you know, my class.
Which is a joke for somebody who lived in New York City.
Yeah. I'm like, these blocks are nothing.
Yeah.
But and my classmates are like, oh, great. I guess we got to go outside now.
Yeah.
You know, but they were all a little bit younger than me. So I was
That's a nice advantage too.
I don't want to admit that, but yeah.
No, I mean,
yeah, I was hyper focused.
Yeah, you're the only female, so to have the maturity on them. Yeah, I meant like having the maturity, and you're a female, so like you can kind of like, you know, you're almost like leading at that point. You know what I mean? Like, I think it would be better for you to be where you were at with that.
Yeah, and so I literally went and gave out flyers. You know, went to businesses, people on the street, and in the beginning, that's a little bit awkward too, because you don't want to just walk up to random people. I feel like in New York City, when people hand you flyers, you're just like,
cool, they throw
or you don't even look at them, or you take it and you throw it, and it's like, get out of my face.
Yeah,
you know,
it's normal.
Yeah, but here, like, I was like, how am I gonna do this? So I would kind of find clever ways to talk to people, like, hey, you need a haircut? Oh, next time you get a haircut, come down the street. You know, it's this much money, blah blah blah. Like,
and you don't realize like how much that's building it. Where like you're now breaking down your barrier of like comfortableness to talk to people. Totally. Bartending did that for me.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm a super shy person. I'm definitely more outspoken, and I can turn modes on now. Like where if I'm talking to someone, I'm like, just pretend it's a podcast, and I'm like, hey. Where like meanwhile inside I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
So like when you do stuff like that and force yourself, if you're uncomfortable, it's something good for you.
And that's what I knew too. I'm like, dang, I don't want to do this, but I have to grow, because like it's gonna be uncomfortable too, cutting someone's hair for the first couple times.
I did it at the deli when we were building a business there. I was over at Newburgh Deli in Easton, and I was like, "Do you guys got the lunch crowd?" And they're like, "Yeah." They're like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to start handing menus out to businesses and let them know that we do small catering, or if they want to call in, they could do pickups for offices." Yeah. And it worked, but like I spent. Literally, and then what's funny is I think my boss was like mad because I was gone all day. I'm like, bro, I'm like,
getting business.
You think I'm just driving around ripping butts? I'm like, you think I want to talk to any of these people? I just smell like onions coming in. I'm like, hey, here we make cheesesteaks. Like, it smells so good. And I'm like, that means I stink. Bye.
Or that means I've been slaving in the kitchen.
Yeah. But that's cool that you did that. That's huge.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of one thing that the teacher was always sharing what he did back in the day.
And it still works. We're doing a pop-up Friday. I'm putting flyers in all the apartments up here. I'll probably put them in the apartments over there, and then I'm going to hit all the businesses on the block.
Smart.
Like, yo, hit, like, why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then
it's the best way of advertising.
Yeah, and then some people will remember that one-on-one encounter if you give it to them to their face too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I really was hyper focused in barber school, and then I apprenticed, and I worked my way up.
How long was the apprenticeship?
I apprenticed for maybe like 7 months.
And you were doing that right out of COVID.
Less. Yeah, so not only were we
That's
trying
crazy. You're like transitioning into a new career, plus everyone's like, put a mask on. We don't know what's going on. Don't drive.
Barbershops are closed. Yeah, you can't have school.
One of my favorite things was cool, and it'll go down in history when we're all gone and they're talking about all this shit, is like the bootleg hair barbers and like salons and stylists they would like, what was cool was seeing small businesses be like, fuck you, we're not going under. And then like they just either put shades up, and then they had their clients come through the back, and then like they just kept going. I did it with this. I was like, cool, we're still doing podcasts. Like, and we started Now We Go. And then we started doing that show and doing different stuff. But like, if you don't adapt and adjust to what's going on, you're completely screwed.
Yeah, you have to just like
and like you said, you have a child.
But even people who don't have kids, like if you really have a goal, like you really gotta stay hyper focused.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tried to do. My classmates would laugh a little bit or kind of chuckle because I did flashcards, and I'm like, yo, I wasn't in school for a long time, and now I gotta do all this book work and learn about, some biology and electricity and just different things you don't think you have to learn about in barbering.
Yeah.
Disease with the skin. So I'm like, I'm writing notes. I don't know about you, but this is a long ass word.
Yeah.
And I'm like using flashcards, and then I started getting good grades, and people are kind of like, oh,
can I use your flashcard? Yeah.
When I graduated, 2 people asked to buy them off of me.
Yeah. Did you sell them, or are you saving it for your book? That's dope, though. I mean, like, 'cause like I said, it comes back to what you learned in school. How, like, you figured out how you can learn doing all that other stuff, and then now, like, people pay attention to what they want and what they don't, and not what they have. And it's like, well, you can take okay, cool. I went to college, which means that like on a low level, going and doing this is way different for a couple of months than what I had to do in Philadelphia and New York City. So like I could take half of what I did there and excel at a super high level at something that I really want to do that's now local, and it's not as overbearing as actual schooling. Like I doubt barber school was anything like Philly.
No, it was not. There was times where you are uncomfortable. We were.
But you know how to maintain that.
I learned a lot. Yeah.
That's cool.
It was cool.
What was your favorite part about the schooling?
My favorite part was that. My teacher's gonna laugh at this, or maybe smile. My favorite part was that he included the aspect that it's more than just barbering, and he shared a lot of his life story with us, which let us see how, whether it's barbering or any other industry, if you really, really put your heart in it and the hard work, like it can impact so many more areas of your life than just what you're doing on the day in and day out. My barber teacher was part of the community. He got into other business aspects and shared those things with us and kind of opened our eyes like, wow, we could put our money to use, as an example, in real estate or, I don't know, just different avenues that he
business avenues, like if you get into real estate and buy a building, you can run a barber shop in the building, and the people upstairs will pay your rent for the building, and now you run a barber shop, and
you could do a lot.
Yeah.
But see, I wasn't always exposed to that thinking.
No, it's weird.
And neither were my
last
classmates.
2 years for me.
Yeah, and neither were my classmates, and so it's kind of having that exposure.
It's fun when you open up that lane. It's fun when you start looking at things that way, especially with going up the street. It's like, cool. Like we could do this, we could do that. And then I'm like texting my buddy last night because there's spots in the basement. I'm like, we could eventually take this over. And then when you really get into a business mindset and then you have the creative resources to make what you're selling unique and special, and then you make it to yourself because you know how to do that, and then you turn the business lights on, that's when things it's like, that's when I started being like, all right, okay, buddy. Ooh. I'm like that, like, you just made money. All right, call my mom. So I made $200 and they're like, cool. And I'm like, no, that was like $200 from nothing. I didn't go somewhere where somebody gave me a check and told me what to do. I'm making money from nothing, and nobody realizes how hard that is. Other businesses do. Different people can come in that you realize, like, you know what I mean? Like, you get your haircuts. Walk-ins are walk-ins, but it's like you need your book. Like, that's not easy to. You're creating your own income. You have a skill set, but like that's not easy to do. And neither is leaving your problems at the door. No. Not at all. Oh man, working customer service really taught me a lot with that. But having the business mindset and being exposed to that through my teacher and through my employers and my boss now, it really changed my mindset, like a different paradigm, mental shift. Like, okay, there's more than just barbering, there's things to think about. Like for me, legacy, like how do I want to be remembered as? What do I want my son to know me as? And what do I want to leave for him? How can I impact the community? Or for like what you're doing, you're impacting the community, you're creating a legacy for yourself and your last name, and you're changing the perception of what people think is possible. And I think that's big stuff. That's real big stuff. And I didn't think about none of that until I met my teacher. Yeah. It's cool. None of that. It's cool. I like seeing it, like people like yourself, or like you learn about it while you're doing it, and like it's just kind of like you see things that you open up, and it's like, oh well, I can help this person out, or I can like when we were talking before, when we were talking about like what I feel the impact of what I'm going to do in this town is going to change, and I don't know what's really going to happen, but my idea of it is super positive. And your heart is in the right place. Yeah, so it's like when I was talking to you, like, oh, well, I'm going to hit up Jerry Johnson because he's over at the fire department, and now I can start helping the fire department. And I hit Jerry up, and I'm like, well, you guys are volunteer, and my dad was a volunteer fireman, so I'm like, it fits in with that. So I'm like, all right, well, I can like do more in town and also give back to you and make something in town now one other thing that I touch different. And then like I just start realizing the amount of shit that needs help, and then you just kind of branch out. But that was nice of you to say that. Did you see how I deflected and and got away from it?
Classic manly response.
I gave you a smirk. That's all I usually get out of therapy, but I appreciate you saying that. But
I go to therapy too.
It's true.
Wonderful.
It's true.
Everyone should try therapy.
Yeah, I don't know why people don't. I took a break from it recently, which was much needed because I started at 28, and then I did super long stretches, and then I took a break, and then it was funny because like when I started drinking again, it wasn't easy, and I definitely like. I tell the story where I woke up, my dog was in the hallway, my glasses were broken half, my friends were passed out everywhere, and I cannonballed the hood of my Mercedes in that I was leasing at the time. And I was like, well, you can stop drinking again and count days, or we're going to just say this is the line, and let's not cross that anymore. So that was the line, and it definitely got moved up. But, you know, I look back on like that moment and everything and like the different things that you go through, and it's just like, you know, I don't let things define me, where it's like I could have went back to not drinking, but like there's balance and there's things that you learn and there's things that you get out of changing and growing what you've learned and like moving forward. I don't know. It's been a weird journey, but like I'm really happy with like where everything's coming, and the older I get, the more I realize that like there's not any specific way that things should be happening other than the way it is. Like your story, who knows what would have happened if you would have went left and right. But then it's like, but then to be able to now take everything I learned and then like change a community and grow and give back, and not even, I'm just doing it selflessly because they're just people I want to help. Like bringing you on here, it's like I've always, since I met you in the lobby, I've been wanting to tell this story. It's dope. It's cool when you like highlight people, and then it like, and then people do text me, because I forget people listen to this because I'm just on to the next project. But people will text me and be like, "Yo, that was really cool. That person's on, and like I want to start my own business now." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what the show turned into. Yeah,
that's literally what it's about." I kind of feel like the imposter syndrome, even talking about myself, like, oh, like people are gonna think I'm bragging, or, you know, just what goes in your head sometimes when you just talk about things you persevered through. Yeah,
I don't know. It was weird. It was weird taking the break, and I'm glad I did. And then now, it was like 3-4 months, and then she texted me and she's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "I'll come in for a tune-up." And then I came in and like I told her everything, and she's like, "Yo, you're doing it." And I was just like, "Yeah." But then I needed to do it. I didn't need to check in to do it. But then like I have other issues and problems where like now I realize like what I fixed on one end, and then I'm like, all right, well, like I don't like this part about me, and I need to fix that because I want to know why like I'm not doing something. So then like I have an appointment this week, so I hit her up last night, and I'm like, "Yo, we're meeting Thursday, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." We have a different relationship. Like I help her out with a podcast. She's like a close friend to me at this point. When you see somebody for 20 years, So I was like, "Hey, I want to work on this," and then I was like, "Oh, like I can choose. It's like a garage. Like I'm coming in now, and I'm like, cool. Like you know how you kept asking me about this one thing? I didn't realize the whole time you were trying to tell me that the shit you're working on is good and you should probably be going to something else. But as a therapist, you can't say that because you need to move things around. So after my break, I realized like, oh yeah, that thing you told me about 2 years ago, like I overworked for 2 years and we should be working on that. So I texted her and she was like, yay. So I'm going to go in, but I don't know. I always, none of this would be possible if I got sober doing therapy. I got balance doing therapy. I got through breakups doing therapy. I got death through therapy, and now I have tools. And now like, and
that's the beauty of it. I think back in the day, therapy had such a bad stigma, and I do think that the one positive thing about social media is that it did shed a light that therapy isn't necessarily bad.
No, I never.
And it doesn't mean that
it.
anything's wrong with us. If anything, it means that we want to take the steps to learn more about ourselves and why we do certain things that we do, and to have those tools. Because that's how I feel about it for myself. You know, it helped me.
It's not hidden anymore. Like it used to be taboo if like somebody's kid had to go to therapy. Now someone's like, I think therapy would work, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You're like,
it's healthy to get an outside input, and it's healthy to have somebody reflect back what you tell them, and they have no bias.
No, because they're not your friend being like, well, you shouldn't do this, or they're not somebody who's just shitting on you all the time, because we've all been around the wrong people for too long.
Yeah.
So it's like when you find that nice balance, it's like, now when I get into situations, I'll be like, cool, you're not exercising enough. Like even now that the weather's breaking, like as soon as this is over, I'm out in the woods. Like, awesome. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what I know I have to do. But I learned that by like, hey, Mike, like if you're down, remember when you went out into the woods? Oh yeah. And your life's too hectic sometimes where you need somebody to be like, and because like sometimes people don't realize that therapist is also like a life coach, and like there'd be times where my dad would be like, what are you still going in there for? But I'd go in there because she's running a business, and I'd be like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, would this work? And she's like, yeah, you can make money doing that. And then now we're having hour sessions where we're choosing what to do. I'm over a problem, and if there's no issues, I was still going in there to work on my business.
Yeah.
And then if you have the right therapist who gives a shit about you, and they're skilled like yourself, where like you have multi avenues of things you went down in life, they can really help you out with anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm huge on therapy.
Me too. That's your call. Whoever's listening or watching, check it out. Check out therapy.
We'll start kind of rounding this thing home. Where did you kind of graduate, and like when did you kind of land on your feet, and like when you really start getting, like what was your avenue now to gentlemen's from graduating and whatnot? How was graduating? Was that emotional? Was it heavy to graduate from the school, or how was that?
From barber school?
Yeah.
I felt like there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helped me appreciate a lot. I went to a couple of other barbershops before I landed at Gentleman's permanently. But I went from being lucky if I had one client to now I have maybe 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 clients, where sometimes we're booked and we have to turn people away.
Yeah.
So it really, really made me appreciate everything. Graduating was awesome. My family was there.
What do you have to do to graduate?
You have to complete 1,250 hours of barber school.
Mm-hmm. Is there like a final? Where you give like the teacher a haircut and then like a dance off? It's like breaking 3.
Oh yeah,
it's
exactly.
like a break dance battle.
Oh man. A little more cowbell. No. That's something different. But yeah, there was a written final, and to get your barber license, you have to do a written exam, and you have to do a practical exam where you're actually cutting hair in front of instructors.
Was that nervous?
Oh yeah. Forget about it. And then with the written exam, you go to like a testing facility, and they take your fingerprints and all this stuff. Very serious stuff.
That's crazy.
And you're sitting there, and there's somebody watching you, and they're like, no talking, and you're sitting in these cubicles, and I took the written exam.
Oh, I had to do the same thing for the post office. I can't believe that's what you have to do. You're like saying all this shit. It was the same thing, because I had to do a driver test, but you had to drive with somebody. And it's just odd. You're on the other side of the car, and then
professional license.
Yeah, I didn't know that you got that. So basically, when you take that test, it's the facility that you had to go to. Because I think I also went there for like a DUI or an underage. Like, I was like, I've been to this building before,
like,
and I was like, oh,
place.
my ex-girlfriend.
It looks funny.
Yeah. That's crazy that it was. I mean, it should be on a high level like that.
Yeah, I was super stressed. And then
did I finish this too early?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god.
And then they're like telling you that the numbers that you can only get wrong, and you're like, one more.
I know. Oh man, horrible.
Yeah.
Such a like messes with your mind.
Yep.
And then
at
the end, and I'm like, oh my god, did I put on deodorant today?
And I'm like, I didn't. Everyone's like, you make cheesesteaks, don't you?
How'd you know?
Haven't done that in years. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Oh man, but then at the end they tell you if you passed or failed. And
yeah, I did appreciate that. Like you knew immediately. Not waiting for that spam email.
Oh god, I know, right? No. So I found out I passed, and I was like, oh thank God. The first thing I did was called I called Ronald from Gentleman's, and I called Monica from Gentleman's, and let them know, like, guess what, guys?
Yeah, because they were the ones that kind of guided you forward.
Yeah, and my barber teacher. And then I called my brother. I called everybody.
Yeah.
I just called everybody. I was excited.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the best. Guess what? So I called everybody. Was very excited. And then my barber teacher told me. He told me when he got the results, he said that I actually didn't get any questions wrong.
That's crazy.
And I was like, what?
Flashcards.
Like, what? I was like, really? He's like, Ashley. And then he showed me the paper, and I was like, wow.
That's crazy.
I don't know how that happened because I was so nervous.
Well, it happened because you lived an entire life before that with your college and
I guess.
working jobs and waitressing, and you have this life experience,
cool.
and then you have things on the line and you want to change your career. And just from the little I've got to dig into it today, it just seems like everywhere you go, you take passion and your love for things and you apply it. And when you do that, you start really moving mountains, and you can really start making a life for yourself. And you've obviously done it. It's pretty rad to hear. I knew there was a lot in there, and I wanted to get into the art. And if anyone didn't want to hang out there that long, I don't care.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
We can finish it with cutting hair. But there's things that I was drawn to you when we met, and it was always art, and it was cool to see all the stuff that you do. Now you landed over at Gentleman's. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that shop? And I know it's kind of different from other shops, but like, what's it like being there now? Because I feel like you found your home.
Oh yeah. Well, Gentleman's Barbershop is a gentleman's barbershop. You walk in, we have a good customer service, a clean shop, and we enjoy people. And it's nice to be there with the owner that has started from the bottom, and it's a Latino-owned business, which is like, my people.
Stand up.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's awesome too. And so Ronald's the owner and Monica is my boss. And Monica, she started out being a female barber herself, where in the beginning there was no female barber. So she really paved the way. And I'm really thankful to her and everybody there that kind of took me under their wing. And it's been great.
Looks like you guys have fun there.
Yeah, I think we have fun. You know, we care about people, and we just try to be a part of the community.
How many people are over there? Because you have your own chair, and then how many people work there total?
There's about 5 in the downtown location, and I think 6 in the Silk Mill location.
Oh, there's 2. I didn't know there was one in the Silk Mill.
Oh yeah, 13th Street. Silk
Yeah,
Mill.
which one are you at?
Downtown.
Or do you pop back and forth?
Downtown.
Yeah.
North 4th Street.
And then I saw you guys have the mobile.
Oh yeah.
So I've only ever seen that once. The police station had it over here. It was definitely not the setup you guys have, but it was the first time where I was like, oh, holy shit, like there's a mobile. I didn't know that was a thing. But then when I saw that, I'm like, oh, there's a hustle there.
Oh yeah, that was Ronald's dream.
Yeah.
And he's a perfect example of, you have a goal in mind, and then you do the steps to see it to fruition.
Yeah.
And we just got the decals. I think it was Scribbles.
Scribbles and Drips.
Yeah,
Now, Nate's come on the podcast. I've had a couple of guys from Scribbles. I push everybody there for rapping and whatnot. They're a premier. I think they're one of the best, if not the best, in the Lehigh Valley. They definitely hold their own.
They're awesome. Yeah, they killed it. And so now we have the mobile barbershop for weddings and different events.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what do you kind of rent that out with?
Yeah.
Have you cut out of it yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I have not yet. But
that's cool. You can
keyword.
definitely do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, so we're trying to do big things, trying to expand, and I think I feel very, very lucky that I'm.
You feel
I'm there.
comfortable? You feel at home there?
I do.
You look at home there.
Thank you.
They
I feel
did,
like I
the
can be
highlight
myself.
video on you and stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was really nice.
It was.
They're highlighting a lot of barber stories. So
That's cool.
I was like, yay. It's a place where my customer service, my personality, and I could just all of that can make me how would I say it?
Shine.
Ooh, shy. Just who I am fits there.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I said,
like we all try to be a little dapper.
Yeah, I like that. That's your vibe though, because then you get your fashion in there.
Yeah, you see.
No, I knew there was something there with the whole package, because you present yourself, and most creative people do, in a way where they carry themselves or how they dress, and you don't really give a fuck about like what a lot of people think. You're just doing things that make you happy. So you always carried yourself a specific way, the way you did your hair, your makeup, and your outfits, and like then seeing you where you're at now, it's like, oh well, that's what you should be doing, is you should be in that style atmosphere, because now that I've heard the whole story, you're pulling New York, you're pulling Philly, you're pulling all these great things that you've accomplished a lot in over your life. Now you have one place that can let you showcase all of that, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool. Where sometimes you run into people and you see things and it's like, oh well, this isn't the correct fit. she should be over here, but I feel like where you landed is where it's going to be like a long-term thing, and where you can learn a lot about like what you want to do with business, and having somebody who's doing multiple things like that. Like your story fits to where this is where you should be.
Thank you.
You should be proud and accomplished of what you did. You're a little badass. You kicked some ass over some time.
Thank you.
Where do you see yourself going? What do you want to do? Do you see yourself staying there for a while? Do you want to open up your own shop? Do you want to stay in the area? Do you want to go to Ecuador and cut hair? What do you want to
do? Where do I see myself? I see myself with Gentlemen's for the long haul.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to give too much of what's to come in the future, but
I got a plan, damn it.
I don't know how it's gonna work out, but it's gonna work out somehow. Right now, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and not become complacent.
Yeah.
In my haircuts and in what I know about the world and business and stuff, but yeah, I see myself.
You do a killer mustache cut as well.
Oh, sorry, girl. You look like you got a mustache there yourself.
Yeah. It hasn't looked as good since you cleaned it up. That was a fun day.
That was awesome.
I want to give you a chance to well, first of all, thank you for coming on. I know you're busy.
Thank you for having me.
I think it's dope that you live in town and you could walk here.
I literally walk here.
I always love showcasing people from Nazareth that are talented and doing their own things. It gives people hope who might be stuck in this town, or younger people who might listen. But the story, I knew what the story was going to be. It was just cool to pull it all out. You crushed the podcast, and it was cool to kind of see where a lot of your energy and your creativity and your fashion comes from. And I want to give you a chance to plug where you're at, what your social media is. If anyone wants to get a hold of you for a cut, if anybody wants to get a hold of the shop or anything like that at all, how can they find you on social media?
Social media, Gentlemen's Barbershop. I am located at 26 North 4th Street in Easton, Pennsylvania.
What's that by?
That is next to Easton Police Station. That is next to the Easton Public Market.
Yep. You'll have plenty of parking soon enough.
Oh, yeah. We got a big parking garage right across the street.
And then the public market's there. You can get a sandwich from Sailors.
Boom, boom, boom. Really good butcher right there.
Yep. Do you get the sandwiches ever there?
I haven't had that, but I usually get nice steaks from there.
Where do you eat in Easton?
Ooh, I eat at
and then
Rod's
I'll kick
Dogs.
back to this. Rod's Dogs good. Yeah.
He's my man.
He's coming
Felix.
on the podcast.
Felix?
No, the owner from Third and Ferry owns that.
Yeah.
But I'd like to probably get who's ever cooking down there.
Yeah, his name's Felix.
Everything that cooks and stuff.
Felix the cat.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah, Rod's Dogs.
What do you get there?
Green Vita. I get a double.
Green Vita's been on the podcast. Do you get the cheeseburgers or the hot dogs at Rod's?
I get the burgers.
Yeah. Well, I like the hot dogs because they deep fry them.
Ooh.
So they deep fry dogs, and they're called rippers, and then you leave them in the deep fryer until they rip. I'll come down and get food with you, and we'll take pictures and do social media shit.
Awesome. I cut Felix's hair.
Where else do you go to eat?
Yeah. Eat at Angelo's down the street from the barbershop. I cut his son's hair too. He's awesome.
Cool. Super networking,
man. Oh yeah, Billy's Diner. Billy's Diner is awesome.
Getting haircuts and stuff.
Mesa is awesome.
Yeah,
Easton's
the
awesome.
best. Easton crushes the food.
Only in Easton.
I feel bad because I highlight Nazareth with the little things that go on here, and there is cool shit. There's Miguel's, and there's always Widows, and the Goats now over here, and Pizza Joe's has Sicilian, and and then you get your regular pie over at Sicily's, and so I do try and to show people that, but I almost feel bad because I don't even remember the last time I hung out in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
I'm just Bethlehem's cool, but there's 19, 20 real deal. I had people come in from New York or Philly or even LA, and I'd be like, yo, Easton. And then my buddy he lived around here, and he's like, dude, I would move back and live in Easton. And that's coming from somebody living in LA.
Yeah. I have a friend moved from Manhattan to Easton.
Yeah. The one girl, somebody just recently came on the podcast. I don't know, it was Easton Tomato Girl or something. So people are coming from the city now to be here. And Modern Crumb, I think she was in Philly and was working in Easton and was traveling from Philly to Easton, and I was like, yo, that's crazy. Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, Easton, like we said, I think whoever's in charge is doing it the best, and their progression and what they're choosing to do has just acclimated that area into it's just crazy. It's crazy what goes on down there.
It's awesome.
It's cool that you get to go there. I just driving there. I take my Grom down and we'll just drive through and hang out. It's a quick hitter on getting a city vibe without having to go into
go
the
too
city.
far.
Yeah.
They just had Taco Fest on Saturday,
What?
and then 4th Street had a block party. We had the mobile barbershop out there.
Hell yeah. And you guys do Easton Out Loud? You probably use the
Yeah.
mobile barbershop for that?
A lot of things.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Hell yeah. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you so
Did you
much.
plug your social media? I forgot.
Nope, but I'll do it right now.
Yeah,
You
see?
can find me at ashreyes.thebarber at Instagram.
Cool. I'll put all the links for the shop and everything
That's
that's going to be in the comments. If you're watching the video, you can click down and you'll get all the info. I'll have you tagged and everything else. If you're a first-time listener, first-time watcher, go to neveragainstudio.com. That has all the video, all the audio. Subscribe to the YouTube. The YouTube channel is going to be a lot more stuff coming down the pipe, especially with the new studio. So we're halfway to 1,000 subscribers, and then I can monetize that. And if I can monetize that, it means I can put more money into the studio, and we can start hiring interns and doing stuff like that. So please just subscribe to that is really the only thing. And all of our clothing is going to be back online. So by the time this airs, it'll probably be connected to Dynamite Screen Printing. We're doing drop shipping with them. So you're going to order. It goes out same day. I'm not going to have to buy 700 t-shirts in order for it to be worth it. And they just sit in my lobby.
Boom.
So clothing's back. We got the YouTube, audio, video. Thank you so much for coming on. And
Thank you so
please,
much
if
for
you're
having
in
me.
Easton, go check her out.
Thank you. Woo woo.
That was fun.
That was awesome.
So many cool things we got into.
Yeah. I feel like I talked a lot.